My name is Laura Walker, and I was saved in the 1980s at the ASU campus.
My name is Lucas Kirkland. I was saved in 2008 while attending Chandler Gilbert Community College.
My name's Nicole. I was saved in 2003 on the ASU campus.
Okay, so here's the scene. Back in the 1970s, I was a little girl, and I was going to Catholic grade school. Sister Nunziata, she would come over, and she had the wooden door stopper in her hand, and she would whack my knuckles on a daily basis. And that was kind of my experience as a Catholic. It was kind of rigid, it was kind of ritualistic, and there really was no feeling to it. And in high school, I kind of left behind religion. In college, I went to ASU, and I was really now on a quest for significance. I remember one particular day when I was walking on campus, a still small voice inside me said, "You are so lost. You have no idea."
As a kid, my life was pretty awesome. I had a great family, I had great friends, I seemed to excel at everything, and that kind of carried on even into high school. In 2006, I started attending Chandler Gilbert Community College, and that's about where life started to change for me. My parents, whose marriage I had always really looked up to, their marriage ended and they got divorced. I was cut from the baseball team. A lot of my longtime relationships began to fall apart, and that was a point in life where, even though I previously didn't believe in God, I was convinced at that point that there wasn't a God, and I would have considered myself to be an atheist.
I remember my whole life feeling like there was just something more to life, that I was just missing it, that somehow everyone had things figured out and I was the only one who just didn't get it. So when I got to ASU, I kind of had that in my mind, thinking that that's the way it was. But then I got there and realized that no one else knew what they were doing either, that everyone that was walking around was just as clueless as I was, and what the world had constructed, like this illusion to make us think that if we do certain things, then we'll be happy, we'll be safe, we'll have hope. And when it was actually put to the test, it couldn't hold. And I remember standing at ASU, just looking at everyone in between classes walking around, and no one had the answer. And I felt like that almost grieved me even more, that no one had the answer. I didn't have the answer. Where in the world was this answer going to come from?
And luckily, there was Campus Crusade for Christ. I remember meeting a guy who was just a plain guy with a plain name. His name was Tom Smith. But what he had to say changed my world. He invited me later on to a young adult group, and I made a lot of cool relationships. The rest is history.
In September 2007, I met a campus minister named Ryan Arneson. I ran into him completely by chance, and we had many discussions where I basically just argued against God with him. He then invited me to lunch many times where I would argue with him some more. And he eventually invited me to a Bible study where I began to hear the gospel for the first time. And it was at that Bible study that I became a Christian.
So one day I was at Home Depot, and that's where I met my sweet and precious husband, Dan. And he gave me a card for U Church because he knew I went to ASU. So that night I left work and I went, it was Wednesday night, and I went to U Church, and I walked in, but Pastor Mike was there preaching, and as soon as I walked in those doors, I remember feeling just an overwhelming sense of peace, like, okay, I'm gonna find an answer tonight. I'm gonna understand everything I haven't understood before, and I'm not gonna be hopeless anymore. And so while he was preaching, I accepted Jesus, and an overwhelming sense of purpose fell over my life.
If it wasn't for this meeting and this encounter with this person, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know where I'd be, and I don't know who would be filming me right now because it's my daughter. She's like, no, yes.
Being the person that I was at the time, with the level of pride that I had, I would have never, ever went into a church. I would have never went to a Christian event. But somebody that was faithful and obedient to what God had called them to do, and obedient to the call to make disciples, came into my world, and patiently pursued me and loved me, didn't judge the things that I did, but heard my side and just continued to share the gospel with me. And because of that, my life is completely different. Research shows that 75% of all Christians make their decision to follow Christ before the age of 21.
College students want to be inspired. They want to make a difference in the world. But the version of Christianity that some are shown is the form of godliness without the power.
God wants to use us to be His hands and feet on the college campus. He wants to use us to show the true power of the gospel.
If we can reach the campus, we can reach the world.